Syracuse men's lacrosse is riding high. The Orange are in the midst of a 3-game winning streak and sit at 6-4. But now it gets real. 5 games remain, all 5 against ranked ACC foes. First up, a home matchup with number 3 Notre Dame, a team that's beaten the Orange 5 straight times by an average margin of more than 9 goals. But there's no time like the present to right past wrongs. It's put up or shut up time for SU. Coming up, we've got everything you need to know about the Orange and Irish. It's Cuse Countdown, and it starts right now. Welcome inside the CitrusTV studio. Cuse Countdown is back. Ian, Nicholas, Chloe, Smarz, and I'm Jacob Morris talking Syracuse and number 3 Notre Dame. A rivalry, I guess you could call it, that hasn't been too kind to Syracuse as of late. But before we talk Orange and Irish, let's talk Syracuse and Hobart. The Orange get their 3rd consecutive win, an 18-7 victory. Ian, it clicked for Syracuse. The Orange get another victory. Now it gets real, though, for the Orange.
Yeah, it clicked as soon as Jack Fine got in that face-off circle, replacing Johnny Rachusa. Syracuse rattled off 7 straight goals, and a big catalyst, obviously, was Joey Spallina. Chloe, I know he's supposed to be doing this kind of thing, the BTBs, the assisting from X, against the good teams and the bad teams, but it was nice to see Spallina doing his thing ahead of a big matchup against Notre Dame, but just good at team lacrosse once again for Syracuse.
Yeah, and Spallina came in he finished that game top 10 freshman seasons in goals and in assists and points, but also the defense for Syracuse. They held Hobart to 33 total shots, committing 13 turnovers. 10 of those were caused by Syracuse. Overall, solid momentum for the Orange. They're going to face a gauntlet coming up, so getting that 3rd straight win, looking good for them.
Big-time win for the Orange, and like you said, Spallina nets his 5th hat trick of the season. It's been unbelievable from the freshman so far. But Chloe, you mentioned the 3-game winning streak for Syracuse. It's been an odd sort of season for the Orange. You lose 4 straight to ranked opponents, 3 straight against mid-majors. Now ranked opponents back. Regardless, good for the Orange to get momentum and get back in the win column.
I mean, in any sport, if you're winning 3 games in a row, it's a good day.
For sure.
For Syracuse, though, you can't really control the schedule, and I think it builds their momentum not only just for their records, their stats, but the chemistry as a team. They looked great on offense against Hobart, and also, though, I don't think Syracuse is necessarily a bad team. They're just young, inexperienced compared to the teams they're playing. Besides their loss to UNC, Syracuse has only lost games by no more than 3 goals. So looking forward, I think they have the confidence to do it. Just have to see what they do on the turf here.
You know what, Chloe? I'm actually going to push back at something you did say because
you always do.
Syracuse. Okay, but I've got a good reason. Syracuse did control its schedule this year. Gary Gait, this was his first year that he actually built out the schedule. He knew what he was doing when he scheduled 4 tough tests in a row. Unfortunately, all 4 losses for Syracuse, and then slotted up these mid-majors to get the confidence back with this team. Over 55 goals in this 3-game stretch and assisting on over 60% of them. This team is playing their most unselfish lacrosse right now, and it's really inspiring to see because they're going to have to play that way against Notre Dame.
Big time. The Irish, a fantastic opponent. And Ian, it's a good point. Head coach Gary Gates saying the nice little lull in the schedule working as intended. Well, let's talk the midfield now for the Orange. It's been kind of back and forth between Michael Leo, Jackson Burtwhistle. Who gets the start? Who's playing? Both have played well at times, but it's kind of a toss-up. The Orange haven't had much consistency at that position yet.
Well, I feel like it's starting to become a consistent trend that it's Michael Leo's time. He started the last 4 games in a row, a top 30 recruit in this recruiting class. Michael Leo with his first career hat trick against Hobart. Chloe, I love Jackson Burtwhistle as a player, but he's limited in my opinion. Leo can do something as a feeder and a scorer. I mean, look at that nice little roll dodge there. Jackson Burtwhistle does not create his own shot. I think he's the perfect fit, Michael Leo is, for the positionless lacrosse that Coach March wants to play.
Yeah, but Ian, Burtwhistle also can score. I mean, that's what you want against a team like Notre Dame coming up this weekend where they're going to have to compete possession to possession. And we saw, besides the game against Johns Hopkins where he put up nothing, he put up a hat trick against Duke, he put up a hat trick against Maryland, and these past 3-game winning streak, he had 2 goals in each game. I think he's a spark plug for this team. I know you like Michael Leo, but I think Burtwhistle also does a great job in that midfield position. He has to step it up, I think, though, a bit.
Regardless of who gets the start, Ian, it is kind of a point that Syracuse continuing to shift younger with the freshmen getting the last 4 starts. An issue for Syracuse, no more positives with the midfield. It's been slow starts. For whatever reason, the Orange have struggled to get out of the gate. It's been an issue all season long. It happened once again against Hobart. The issue is now, Chloe, Syracuse isn't playing Hobart. They're playing Notre Dame, Duke, North Carolina, all good teams. You can't slow start from there.
Especially against Notre Dame. That's one of the best scoring offenses in all of college lacrosse, though. But it's a little bit disappointing, especially against Hobart. They were down 2-0 to start that game, and Will Mark said post-game, we need to come out and get a little faster. Obviously, Will Mark, you can't be doing that against a team like Notre Dame. Going down the stretch, you're going to play Duke again. You're also going to play UNC, a team that was their worst loss of the season. So they're going to have to fix that, especially against Notre Dame team.
Yeah, Cole, you look at these last 3 games, and the final score looks great for Syracuse.
Yeah.
They're beating the teams dominantly, but they should be beating really well. But I'm just so concerned with the fact that Syracuse has the ability to put these teams away, snap of its fingers, and it does it. They wait till the 3rd quarter.
Yeah.
In that Hofstra game, 3-goal lead at the half, 6-goal lead at the end of 3. In the St. Bonaventure game, Syracuse put up 9 goals in the 3rd quarter. Where was that in the first half? Same story against Hobart over the weekend, Chloe. I'm just wondering, why do they need Gary Gait to rip into them at halftime just for them to play their best lacrosse? They cannot afford to do that, as you mentioned, against the Irish.
Yep.
Can't afford to do it against top-tier opponents. We saw it against Maryland when the Orange gave up 3 goals in the span of 3 minutes to start. Maryland wins that one 15-12. Maybe the goals matter. But regardless, this team is young. They're learning, right? And cohesion's been a big talking point this year for the Orange. It's a team that likes playing together better. The man-up success has proven that. And just ask Michael Leo, it's a team that's sharing the ball and confidence is flowing on the offensive side.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're just going to take what the defense gives us, and I think we're just going to keep on dodging at the short sticks, and just if they're not sliding, then just go to the goal and shoot, and if they're not, just dish it one more and create offense.
We're watching the team kind of grow up in front of our eyes. We knew there would be some growing pains, we'll say, especially with the schedule, but the Orange have flashed in a big way at big times as well on offense, Ian.
I mean, you just look at the way they're sharing the ball, like Michael Leo was getting at. Syracuse has 3 less assists this season than it had all last year. And remember, they played 4 less games. It's a completely different offensive personnel. Tucker Dordevic and Brendan Curry, great players, but not really elite facilitators like an Owen Hiltz and a Joey Spallina. And you can just see it. Like Jacob mentioned, when the man-ups come, Syracuse is scoring because they want to get everybody involved.
Yeah, and against Hobart, 10 different players scored in that game. That's probably why they won the game. Also, though, like you were talking about, Syracuse had 92 assists in last season. This season's with 6 show games to go, 89 assists. So that's only going to go up, and that's why Syracuse has been successful in these past 3 games as well. And when you have people like Johnny Cohen, Simmons, and Hills being able to complement your 1-2 punch of Spallina and Cole Kurse, you're going to be successful.
A lot of young faces for the Orange, but the team getting better game by game. But it's time for our first break here on Cuse Countdown. When we come back, we flip over to the Irish. We talk Notre Dame and everything the Irish have in store. We'll be right back.
Here's to the straggly ones, the first ones. But hey, I look good with this ones. The black, brown, red, and gray ones. The itchy ones. The ones grown by Dad. The ones grown for Dad. The I nearly didn't do it this year ones. And the absolutely filthy ones. They all raise awareness, raise funds, start conversations, and save lives. Because whatever you grow will save a bro. Learn.
We're back on Cuse Countdown. Jacob Morris, Ian Nicholas, and Chloe Smarz. Syracuse battling number 3 Notre Dame in the Dome, and we talked Orange before the break. Now we flip over to the Notre Dame side. It's been a fantastic season for the Irish so far, 6-1. But that one came in the form of a 15-10 loss to then number 3 Virginia, now number 1 Virginia in South Bend. Kind of a battle of the Titans, Ian, but regardless, a tough loss for the Irish.
Yeah, Lars Tiffany's crew looked like the much better team in our Lotta Stadium, although shout out the Notre Dame football team. Made it a really fun environment despite a one-sided affair. At the end of the day, Virginia's 2-2-2 offense, which is magical, wizardry level stuff, just got the better of a Notre Dame defense, which has been one of the best in college lacrosse for years, but Virginia was angry after losing to Maryland the week before, and they let their frustrations out on the Irish.
That was Virginia's first loss, by the way, since March 26, 2022. It's been nearly a year since they've lost and been outscored. Guess who else they lost to a year ago on that day?
Who?
The Cavaliers. It's always funny how sports tends to just rewrite itself, Ian.
It's beautiful.
But in that game, Xander Dixon for Virginia made the difference. Notre Dame struggled to defend him the entire game, and a lot of people pay attention to Peyton Comer on the inside for the Cavs. But Dixon was fabulous. He had 6 goals, 1 assist on that game. And defensively, the Cavs have the size, and that's why they were able to minimize Notre Dame, minimize and maybe confuse their offensive sets, and they were not effective. The Kavanaugh brothers didn't do what they normally do against a team like Syracuse.
Cole Kirst was impressive defensively against both of the Kavanaugh brothers. The Kavanaugh brothers will be a big storyline between Syracuse and the Irish. But when you talk Notre Dame, it's impossible not to go back to last year. A team that went 8-4, won its last 6 games, was widely, Chloe, considered one of the 5 best teams in the entire country. And then on selection day, was left out of the NCAA tournament. Kevin Corrigan's bunch came back with a vengeance, some new faces. They want to be back in March, or in May, rather.
Yeah, I think the biggest questioning about all of that was that it went to Harvard. And if you look at that last game stretch for them, they went 3-3 and got blown out by Colgate.
Yeah.
It didn't really make much sense for a Notre Dame
Raiders team.
Sure, but Notre Dame played a very competitive schedule. They played Maryland, that was in national championships. They played Georgetown and they played Ohio State, and none of those were blowout losses at all. I think it's clear, though, that this year they're saying we're not just a tournament-worthy team, we're a national championship contender, and they're using that momentum to dominate this year.
Overall, Notre Dame is the most angry and is fueled by that frustration heading into this year because they did everything they possibly could to make the tournament last year, winning their last 6 games. They said, committee, look at us. And the committee said, well, we're just not a big fan of the ACC in general this year. Virginia was the only team in the ACC to make it to the NCAA tournament last year. Duke was considered down. Notre Dame's final win of the season was against Duke, and the committee said, you know what? That's not enough, and you're out of a tournament for the first time since 2005 as a result.
Shocked a lot of people, especially in South Bend. 2 of those 4 losses came against the tournament's #1 overall seed and #2 overall seed. Tough for the Irish, but Notre Dame lost a couple key faces, but man, did they reload in a big way, Ian. The transfer portal, the name of the game now in college lacrosse. Notre Dame hit it, and they hit it hard.
When you had the opportunity to add a couple of players from the Nutmeg State, especially Chris Fake, a 4-time All-American defender from Yale, who was spearheading the defense back in 2018 that led the Bulldogs to a national championship, that's scary. And this was an Irish team that needed help on defense, considering, Chloe, they lost a 5-year starter and a couple of grad transfers. So they bring in a couple of grad transfers, one of them from a big school in Yale, but another one, Chris Conlon from Holy Cross, he's been awesome as well.
Yeah, he's been fabulous, and he did nothing but dominate in Massachusetts. He had 40 turnovers a year ago. That broke the single-season record at Holy Cross. Another guy, though, a New Jersey guy. All these guys, by the way, Ian.
From our states.
From the state of New
Makes
Jersey.
sense.
I just want to say that. But he's basically been a Swiss Army knife. Brian Tevlin, who played at Yale, was the team captain. He had 13 goals, 13 assists a year ago. He's doing that again for Notre Dame. He also can put together some turnovers. He had 9 this season. He's doing a lot, and thanks to the transfer portal, Notre Dame is doing well.
Transfers making an impact. Those are the new faces for the Irish. There's still an old face in town, and well, that's unfortunate for Syracuse. Pat Cavanaugh, still wearing blue and gold, a guy that in his last 4 matchups against the Orange has put up 38 points. That's over 9 points per matchup. Pat Cavanaugh figures to be a huge problem once again for Syracuse, Chloe.
He's filthy. To put it simply, and you would say it too, he owns this university. It's going to be a tough task for Syracuse this weekend because he has every stat line against Syracuse. The past 4 matchups.
He's just so good.
So good. I'm speechless, Ian.
No, I just think when you look at his game, he has no weaknesses. He can stop on a dime, an elite dodger, an elite finisher, but now defenses are really honing in on him. So what does he do? He feeds. And he feeds to his brother, and he feeds to everybody else on his team. And this offense is the third best scoring offense in the nation because he's the quarterback behind the cage. He's unbelievable.
Pat Cavanaugh set the program record for Notre Dame in points against Syracuse last time. The issue is Chloe. He's now joined by his brother, and the combo have been causing issues all season long.
Almost all younger siblings have the natural desire to mimic their older sibling. Same can be said for the Cavanaugh brothers, whose name has become synonymous with Notre Dame lacrosse in the past decade. It dates back to 2013 when Matt Cavanaugh finished his time in South Bend as a three-time All-American. And while Matt became one of the most dominant players in Notre Dame's history, his younger brother Pat sat in the stands with dreams of his own. And now 10 years later, the senior attack is a two-time All-American at his brother's alma mater and one of the most complete players in all of college lacrosse. And if there's one word to describe Pat on offense, well, it's filthy. It's no surprise to see Cavanaugh dish out some behind-the-back sorcery-like goals and drive to the cage with innate quickness. But in the 2023 season, Cavanaugh continues to feed his teammates around him, and his unselfish play is the reason why Pat ranks second in the nation in assists per game. Because what Cavanaugh does so well is allowing other players to play their best by consistently making the extra pass, even if he has a decent look. His total of 26 assists on the season is credited to Cavanaugh's vision and ability to facilitate a potent offense for the Fighting Irish that ranks third in the nation in scoring. Because with more assists tend to come more goals, and we saw it against Michigan, when Cavanaugh's team mentality led the Irish to drop 18 goals. 6 assists on the afternoon matched Cavanaugh's season high, and it's the best part about it is that he dished it out to 4 different players. And Ian, one of those players, not only runs in the same bloodline, but knows what it's like to look up to their big brother.
Chloe, it's a deep Cavanaugh bloodline, and Chris, the youngest of 5 brothers, might be, as you said, the filthiest. The leading goal scorer on the third best offense in the country. He had 6 straight hat tricks to start the year. Didn't have one in the weekend loss to Virginia, but he did have 2 really amazing goals, including one in the third quarter, which brought his team within 1. He's on the far side of a screen, being defended by an All-American long pole. So how do you get him free? Set a screen, he blows by a shorty, and now he's one-on-one on the doorstep against a good goalie, Matthew Nunes, but he's not going to be good enough to make this save as Cavanaugh dives into the crease, stays out of a goal mouth, and scores to bring his team within 1. Now, he did a little bit in that loss to Virginia, but he did a lot in a really great winning effort, maybe the game of the year in college lacrosse against Maryland. Bottom of the screen, his team down 1 with 30 seconds left against Ajax Zapatello, one of the best long poles in the country. Cavanaugh, little half spin, working on goal line extended. He gets the inside leverage. There's one problem. He has no angle at the goal. So what does he do? He creates that angle by diving into the crease again. I guess he just loves to do that, and shoveling it in backhanded. And then his brother Pat did the rest in triple overtime. And in a great game against the defending champs, Pat and Chris got it done, and J-Mo, they're probably going to get it done against Syracuse this weekend as well.
Ian, you're exactly right. The two have combined for 69 points on the season. Man, it is a nice time to be a Notre Dame fan right now. The two have caused issues for opposing defenses all season long. Ian, should be a big-time issue for Syracuse as well.
It should be, especially as long as Syracuse is without Landon Clary. A defense that's solid but still growing under Dave Petramala is going to have a lot of issues defending 2 of the best in the business.
And Syracuse is going to have to keep up with both of them. And the only equivalence I see maybe is Joey Spallina at the attack, but they do something that Syracuse doesn't have on their team, and that's going to be a big loss for Syracuse to try to keep up with them if they can at all.
Pat, the assist man, with 26 assists, Chris with 23 goals. So attack, good for the Irish. Let's flip over to the defensive side, and that's where Notre Dame makes its bread and butter. Kevin Corrigan in season number 35 in South Bend. Ian, ever since lacrosse has tracked top 72 or whatever it might be in scoring defense, the Irish have been in the top 25. Notre Dame prides itself on its defense, kind of rare in today's offensive-minded form of lacrosse.
Of course. I mean, look, offense wins games, defense wins championships, and Ryan Wellner is the defensive coordinator and makes sure this ship continues to steer in the right direction for Notre Dame. Ultimately, a big letdown against Virginia. As I mentioned earlier, UVA had its way. But against an inexperienced Syracuse team that's very good offensively, Chloe, I like to see how this offense in the orange match up against an Irish defense that usually has its way.
Yeah, they've done a great job minimizing some of the best offenses in the country. You look at it, 4 teams they played, and then 15 Georgetown, and then 4 Maryland, and then 10 Ohio State. They held all of those teams to 8 goals or fewer. That's something that is very impressive by them. And also they've had some big additions, like we talked about, from the transfer portal that's been able to help them, help their goalie be really good this year, who we'll talk about in a second. But Notre Dame, known for their defense. Syracuse, not so much.
Notre Dame defense has been really good. You teed it up really well, Chloe. That's thanks in large part to the man in between the pipes, Liam Entenmann, the OSU transfer, top 10 in goals against average, and a man in Syracuse between the pipes, Will Mark, also top 10 in goals against average. It's a matchup of two really good goalies and should be an interesting storyline going into Saturday's match.
Yeah, especially for Notre Dame. Entenmann is basically duplicating what he did a year ago in the 2022 season, where he was a third-team All-American that year. 10 straight games with double-digit saves. That's insane, man. Yeah. He's so good. He ranked 7th in the nation in save percentage. His best game came against Ohio State, where he held the Buckeyes to their lowest goal total in the match with 3 goals. He's the nation's top goalie coming out of high school in the 2019 class, and he's lived up to every expectation at Notre Dame. But there's someone else for the Orange who's also really good, Ian.
Look, these stats, the one that jumps out to me is just saves, because you look at Will Mark and he's like, oh my goodness, is he the better goalie than Liam Entenmann? I wouldn't say that. It's just that Will Mark's defense is not as good as Notre Dame's defense, and Mark has to face a lot more shots. So, Jacob, it's really unbelievable that the fact that Will Mark has a higher save rate than Entenmann, although the ball is always flying his way.
And once again, a testament to that Irish defense for sure. But it's time for another break here on Cuse Countdown. When we come back, we have some fun. CC Labs, we put together some experiments and try to figure out what the heck is going on with SU lacrosse. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Jordan knows he shouldn't eat this entire bowl of nachos, but tonight he's earned that right, because a few hours ago in the middle of happy hour, he recognized a sign. Not from the gods or a bolt of lightning, but from a double heart, a kissy face, and a fourth ha in ha ha ha. That's when Jordan knew he was buzzed. So when it was time to go, he got a ride home instead of driving. Be a legend like Jordan. Recognize your buzzed warning signs and get a ride home. Buzz driving is drunk driving.
Welcome back inside the CitrusTV studio. I'm Jacob Morris. That's Ian Nicholas, and that's Chloe Smarz. The goggles are kind of giving it away, but first and foremost, safety is the priority here in the CitrusTV studio. We're talking CC Labs. We've got 2 aspiring scientists here. Apparently not quite as safe as me.
Yeah.
Maybe I don't trust.
I'm digging the goggles.
Yeah, thank you. It's a good look, right? We're going to take down a topic for Syracuse lacrosse, and these 2 chemists, scientists, I'll let you pick, are going to give us the missing ingredient that are going to take it over the top. So, Ian, I'll come to you first. Or Chloe, actually. I changed my mind. We're going to go to Chloe first. We're talking defense. We talked how good the Irish defense was. If Syracuse maybe wants to pace its way to Notre Dame, what's the missing ingredient?
I need them to add a little bit of rhythm.
Whoa.
So let me explain.
On defense?
Yes, because let me explain here. Syracuse, in comparison to them on defense against ranked opponents versus unranked opponents, is insane. Against ranked opponents, by the way, all 4 games that they've lost, they've given up an average of 14.75 goals per game.
Not a good
but
number.
on
Not
the
great.
year, they're giving up an average of 9 points per game. If you look at a team that against teams that are unranked, the 6 games that they won this year, they're giving up only 6.75 goals per game. That's the Orange's greatest weakness right now, is that they are extremely inconsistent on defense. So they need to add a little flow, get it going, Ian, so that they can compete against the gauntlet they're about to face after Notre Dame. Notre Dame.
I'm going to keep it simple. They need to add Landon Clary back. The guy is hurt. He's their best cover guy. And without him, Sam Alexos had to be Superman for Dave Petramala. He's a really good player, but he's no Superman, I have to say. Billy Dwan, really good freshman recruit, top 15 of the nation, doesn't have a caused turnover through 3 starts. That's not a great formula. We need to add a little Landon Clary. Even if he's a little banged up, they need him back.
I like both ingredients, both smart. Good start from both of you. Ian, we're going to talk coaching staff now. When you look at the Syracuse sideline, what's the missing ingredient? What do the Orange have to do to get back to competing in top-tier lacrosse?
Nothing.
Nothing. It's perfect.
It's
Here's the thing.
I don't know if
anything
he gets
different
the
in
point
his
of
answer?
this.
Absolutely.
But I've got reasoning
we
for
go.
why doing nothing is the perfect formula against Notre Dame. Virginia beat Notre Dame because they played their game. They played the 2-2-2 offense. They stuck to their guns. Notre Dame couldn't handle it. Syracuse cannot turn into something that it's not in this game, Chloe. They've got to go blow for blow with Notre Dame, just like they went blow for blow with Hopkins and Duke. And I think it could break their way.
Ian, I'm going to add someone that you know a lot about.
Do I know?
Someone by the name of Kayla Trainer.
Wow.
Coach Trainer.
Coach Trainer, you
Best
know.
lacrosse team on campus.
It's the talk of the town here. Women's lacrosse here, fabulous. If you don't know, they're #1 in the country and they are dominant. They need someone like Kayla Trainer who can come in, be that girl boss and say, you know what, let's close out games, let's win, because they haven't been able to do that on the men's side. Gary Gate is getting out-coached by Kayla Trainer on this campus.
His former player.
His former player as well. So definitely add Kayla Trainer, your girl, Ian, to this coaching staff.
Hey, that's a heck of a recipe. Either you add nothing or you add the head coach of the #1 ranked Orange on the women's side. But regardless, let's move on. Last one. We're talking face-offs. Chloe, what is the missing ingredient? What are you going to add to the formula to fix a real issue for Syracuse right now?
Bring back Jacob Fomp.
Oh, that's realistic.
That's tough.
So realistic. It's not going to happen, but that's why Syracuse coming in to this year knew that they were not going to be able to replace him at all. They needed to have a group of players that can do what he did production-wise at the face-off position. They don't have that this year. They need him to come back. They're missing him so much. Rakuso and Fine not doing it. Ian, I don't know.
Look, Fops v. X, you've got to move on, and you've got to hand out a ring to one of these guys. You cannot do it by committee. I think you give that ring to Jack Fine, ultimately, because he was really solid against Hobart.
Well, regardless, 2, we'll say, smart formulaic chemists. We're going to go with chemists
Big
over
brain.
scientists. Good stuff. Regardless, it's time for our final break here on Cuse Countdown. When we come back, we look at the road ahead for Syracuse, and we give predictions for Saturday's matchup. Wrapping up shop on Cuse Countdown, Jacob Morris, Ian Nicholas, and Chloe Smarz. Syracuse at #3 Notre Dame on Saturday. The roadmap for Syracuse looking forward is tough. It's a gauntlet, Ian. 5 ranked opponents on the docket, a little bit tougher than what Syracuse has been facing.
It is, but they've already gone through a gauntlet like this before. And Gary Gates said it time and time again, Chloe, he thinks his team can make a run. And if you look at the schedule, I don't think those wins come against Notre Dame this weekend, but Princeton, North Carolina, maybe even Duke, I think they could win those games.
Yeah, and if they want to get revenge on North Carolina, they have every opportunity to do that. Princeton, I think they have a shot against. I think they can do some damage there. And Duke was a game that, you know, they competed up until the end of that game. So that they have a shot, it's going to be rough for them.
Have to learn from their earlier struggles. But coming back to the Syracuse and Notre Dame matchup, Ian, we've talked Orange, we've talked Irish. Give me a prediction who comes out on top on Saturday.
It's going to be the Irish, but not by as big a score as people might think at home. I think Syracuse, in the 2 games they've really been the underdogs in this year, Hopkins and Duke, they play those teams down to the wire. I think it's another down to the wire game, but Notre Dame, the Kavanaugh brothers, they get it done in crunch time, 14-11. Syracuse is going to come up short.
Tend to agree with you, Ian. I'm also going to take Notre Dame here, 15-9. Again, Kavanaugh brothers are going to outdo everything that Syracuse can do. Their struggle on defense, the Irish good on defense. That's the recipe for disaster for Syracuse. They're going to play from behind. They'll have their moments, but won't last too long.
How about it? A united front. I've got the Irish 19-10. I think Notre Dame continues its dominance over Syracuse. It's been a rivalry the Irish have owned and continue to own. That's all the time we have. Ian Nicholas, Chloe Smarz, and Jacob Morris saying thanks so much and so long.